Hello everybody and welcome back to the Veras channel. That is that channel, and I am them. So I've got a bit of an interesting topic for you today. We are going to be talking about crash test dummies. You know those things that they put in the cars to test them to see how a human body would react to a full-blown crash in a car? We're talking about those today. We're specifically talking about the media that sprung from those. So we're not talking about so much about the dummies, I guess, but so much the pop culture idea behind the dummies. After all, you've got things like Turbo Dismount, Fortnite, companies and creators who really became obsessed with the aesthetic of crash test dummies and used them in a lot of stuff, including government PSAs. Ooh, fun. Just as a fun side note, as I was researching for this video, I discovered in the history of crash test dummies that apparently they used to use humans and animals, and I think it's pretty obvious why they couldn't keep doing that. So they invented these things. Anyways, without further ado, let's get on to the pop culture impact of the crash test dummy. So the first thing we're going to talk about is obviously those government PSAs, because let's be honest, government-funded PSAs are probably the most exciting thing to start a video off with. So we've got our two protagonists, I guess, in the PSAs called Vince and Larry, who are crash test dummies who go on and on about seatbelt safety.
You know, this simple exercise can help you stay healthy, which keeps medical costs down.
But you gotta do it every day, Vince. Or you'll get out of shape fast.
That's kind of what the vast majority of all of these PSAs was about. Seatbelt safety was a huge thing during this time, this time being between 1985 and 1999. The main tagline for the PSAs was always, "Don't be a dummy, buckle your seatbelt," because it gets the point across. It's like, these are crash test dummies, don't be stupid, wear your fucking seatbelt. What I love most about these PSAs is that they're very schlocky and they're silly.
They rub against my neck, they're uncomfortable.
How about this for an alternative?
These are actually kind of funny. And they're actually, like, really well made. They give me, like, the vibe of, like, if, like, a cartoon was made in real life, like, it would kind of look like this. But seriously, for PSAs made by the government, some of these are pretty good.
After this joyride, I'm out of the crash dummy business for good.
But Vince, it's a great job. Heck, they'd have to pry me away from it.
Anybody home? Larry, they do pry you away from it.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Iron Maiden was there.
Belt up. Don't be a dummy.
And also, the best part about this PSA is that it apparently actually worked. I read a statistic somewhere, I can't remember what the numbers were exactly, but it was something like seatbelt safety saw a rise from anywhere to like 20 to like 60% or something like that. So with all the success that they were making with these PSAs, you gotta wonder, well, what's next? So they made toys. The toys were designed to be easily destructible. Literally clicking the chest of the crash test dummy would make it explode, and they made cars that went along with it. There were several generations of these toys, and a whole new era of these pop culture crash dummies was born. With the idea of the toys, they also decided to create a 3D CGI animated TV show pilot, The Incredible Crash Dummies. A lot of people believe that the pilot was made solely just to market the toys and the IP, so they could kind of create this brand for themselves. And in my research, I discovered that yes, that is entirely true. That is exactly what happened. I actually have the original VHS tape with the pilot on it that they sold along with the toys. I don't have it with me, so my sources trust me, bro, but I did watch this a lot as a kid. That's actually the entire reason I decided to make this video in the first place, is because I used to watch that pilot constantly as a kid. I'm actually surprised that that tape is still intact. I have to thank my dad for that one, who bought the toy. The Incredible Crash Dummies, which was the name of this pilot, was released in 1993 for Fox Kids. It was a 3D CGI animated show. The series was developed and written by Savage Steve Holland and Bill Kopp, and was directed by Mark Maruto. What kind of a first name is Savage? That's the first thing that comes up. That's just his name. This guy was so cool. His first name is one of the hardest adjectives in the English language. You may be cool, but are you Savage Steve Holland cool? I don't think so. The Incredible Crash Dummies pilot is based entirely around following two particular crash dummies named Slick and Spin. And they live in Dummyland, yes, that is the name of the place that they live, which is supposedly inhabited entirely by crash dummies. And I say supposedly because I will get back to that in a minute. The citizens of Dummyland primarily have jobs working with cars, and they build them and they test them by crashing them. The pilot opens up with probably one of my favorite openings to a cartoon that I've ever seen. It's just a bunch of guys like hammering a sign on the wall, which I believe says like "In crashing we trust" or something like that. It pans over to our first set of characters, Bull and Spare Tire, and they are working on the president's limo. And it's also implied that the president isn't a crash dummy.
Gee, Bull, this is exciting. Just think, the president will ride right here. I could get used to this. Maybe I should run for office someday. I mean, why not a dummy in the White House?
Which kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier, is that not all of the residents of Dummyland are dummies. Maybe he doesn't work in Dummyland. Maybe it's like he's the president of the United States. So they're working on the limo and they're basically trying to make it indestructible so that the president can't be hurt. So the tests that they do to ensure that the limo is safe is they slam it against a wall at top speeds. The one thing that I love about this show is that it takes your expectations and throws them out the window, stomps on them, and then burns them. Because immediately after that happens, he says, "Oh, yep, we're all set. Yeah, the president's limo, looking great, looking sharp. We're all set, right? No, we haven't done the bomb-proof test yet."
Yep, he's in bomb.
This sets the precedent for the entire pilot, and I love it. We then move on to our actual protagonists of the story, Slick and Spin, who are trying to do a really intense and crazy crash and catch it on camera so that they can become famous crash dummies.
You'll be on TV. I could become a star. Yeah, you'll be a smash hit.
This is also one of like my favorite sequences to watch in this entire pilot. Every like action sequence, any shots with like heavy movement in it are all animated like kind of beautifully, and it always ends with either a huge crash or with them all coming back together perfectly. Maybe it's just because I have like really bad OCD, but that really scratches an itch whenever I watch it. And after this magnificent crash, they realize they forgot to take the lens cap off. Haha, oopsie.
Did the camera get it? I forgot to take the lens cap off. Give me my legs so I can run away.
We are then introduced to Doc, who basically talks to Slick and Spin about how he has decided who he is going to use for the test for a brand new torso made for crash dummies that is supposedly supposed to be indestructible.
The Torso 9000 is a dummy's dream come true. Right, Slick. We're very grateful to be the first to crash it, sir.
While Slick and Spin were eager to be the first ones to use this torso,
what gave you the idea you'd be the first to try the Torso 9000?
Unfortunately, it went to Ted.
Ted will be taking the Torso 9000's first trial run.
Ted gets all the fun jobs.
We then go into Doc's office, which kind of looks like a doctor's office if it was in a janitor's closet. And also, there's this just ominous robotic head in the middle of the room, completely unguarded.
Hey, Spin, check out the dread head.
Put that down! Never touch this!
Why is it lying around, Doc? Why would you get mad at them messing around with the head if you're just gonna leave it out? Part of that's your fault. I hope you realize that. So Doc brings Slick and Spin into the test chamber and shows them the tests that Ted is going to go through to test out the Torso 9000.
Hey, there's Ted. Looks like he's really gotten a head start.
Ted's head has been altered to fit only the Torso 9000. You could say Ted's really sticking his neck out for safety.
This scene is actually pretty funny. There's like a few jokes in here that are sprinkled in. And most of the humor in this show is pun-based, and I know that's kind of like, oh, like that's an eye roller. It's still kind of funny. This pilot is also like incredibly fast. Like, the editing done with the pacing of this pilot is as if it was made in, like, 2024, which is kind of insane, because back then a lot of the shows were slow burns. They usually took their time with it, or, like, they usually didn't have a lot going on, so, like, the pacing would be slowed down to extend the length of the episodes. But they had so much going on in this pilot that they kind of needed for it to go by very quickly, because if they didn't, then they wouldn't be able to tell the whole story, or the thing would be, like, an hour long. And I think that that's kind of what helps preserve this pilot. The pace is so quick, and the writing is so witty, and everything kind of comes together so well. And the story, like, as punny as it is and as schlocky as it can be at times, makes sense and is coherent. So I'm actually kind of surprised at how well this holds up. It's been like 30 years. This thing is 30 years old, and it still holds up really well. So as Ted is being distracted on his test, he hits bugs.
What the?
This was kind of crazy to me to watch this scene because they're all cheering. Ted might be dead, and they're cheering. The man screamed his lungs out on the way up, and you're cheering.
It'll be hard to top a crash like that.
I mean, I get, like, this whole universe is based around, like, oh, the biggest and best crashes, but, like, guys, Jesus Christ. So the torso's fine, everything's fine. They bring Ted back into the lab to forcibly... I love that every transition in this show is like a crash of some kind. They really took Crash Dummies and were like, yup, that's the whole show. Doc presumably works on Ted for the rest of the day, to the point where it becomes night, where the janitor comes in. Which is funny, because again, his office looks like a fucking janitor's closet. And what ends up happening is there is a bit of an oopsie, because again, this whole show is full of like crashes and physical humor. Ted's head winds up in the recycling bin.
Doctor. Who turned out the light?
And so Horst, yes, that's his name, sees the dread head and attaches it to the Torso 9000, which I think we all know where this is going.
Time to clean up your act.
And then he runs to the back room to grab a bunch of junk parts to kind of finish off the body parts that he didn't have anymore. So he's missing a leg, missing an arm, and so he is coined the Junk Man. And he also finds a cat. Got a little cute companion, little cat companion, you know, the supervillain and the cat companion duo. You know, it's kind of cute. Like, and it was fun that they did this little thing where it's like, oh, I have my little pet here. We're gonna take over the world together. And also, why the fuck are there bugs and cats? So obviously everybody comes in the next morning and they're like, shit, our big funny device that costs a lot of money is indestructible is now in the hands of a villain. So we need to figure out how to get it back and preserve the secrets of the Torso 9000, or the world is basically fucked, apparently. The world will end if the secrets of this torso get out. So they need to get it back, like, now. And they're all having this secret meeting, and they talk about this disc. This has all of the secrets and all of the information about the Torso 9000, and we can't let anybody get their hands on it, except, there's a big fucking skylight in the room, and anybody can look in and see what they're talking about, and so one of Junkman's henchmen can see them talking. So they decide to use some biplanes to go and see if they can look for Junkman, except, the other two henchmen of Junkman have put basically controllers into the planes, and now they have control of the planes through an arcade machine that has a Super Mario World reference on it, which I thought was fun.
Flying me? I think not, you flying crash dodos.
What's going on up there?
It would appear our crash planes have simultaneously gone out of control at the same time.
So the doctor's like, don't crash those planes. And they're like,
Okay. There go our frequent flyer miles.
and so Junkman stole the disc. But it's okay, because apparently he was supposed to steal the disc. Because the disc that they had, that he stole, instead of it containing the information for the Torso 9000, it doxes him? So the doctor reveals that he had put all the information from the disc into his noggin, and Slick and Spin are now put in charge of going to Junkman's lair and basically getting the Torso 9000 back. As Slick and Spin are on their way to the junkyard where Junkman is, they encounter some interesting situations that make me question just how indestructible these crash test dummies already are. So they built the Torso 9000 to make these guys basically indestructible, which they're basically sentient beings, so having to replace them, I'm sure, is a little heartbreaking. But they're already pretty fucking indestructible. In this scene alone, they crash through a gated fence in a big truck and get into a pretty nasty crash. Then they're magnetized. They're then dropped into just a crusher. There's no other word that I can even call that thing. It's a crusher. And they're crushed into cubes. No living being can survive that. So what are these guys made of, and why do they need the Torso 9000? So then the radio frequency that they are trying to contact Slick and Spin on goes out. And so the doctor goes up to check the satellite dish, and he tries to replug it in. There's a gag where Ted was just going on about how he feels useless because he's literally just a head right now because he doesn't have a body because it was stolen. And the doc uses him as a footstool. So the doctor gets stolen, and we cut back to the junkyard. We also see that Junkman's henchmen are just as good at firing what are basically guns as stormtroopers.
Have more trouble than this.
So that was fucking pathetic. So Slick and Spin get to an area where they can use a cannon that is built into their briefcase. It was such a weird thing. I don't know.
How are we supposed to get up there? With this. Stand back. I want to go first.
Slick then fire Spin directly into a rock wall.
Yahoo!
Which again, why do they need the Torso 9000? Junkman then has the doc hook up to this memory device that's gonna like suck all the information out of his brain, and then Slick and Spin wind up making it up to the lair.
The jig is up, Junkman!
Which, how did they fire themselves out of the cannon if one person is needed to fire it? And I was like, that's one of the coolest scenes in media that I've ever seen, ever. And so then all of the basically stormtroopers point their guns, and then Spin makes some reference as if there's a dummy afterlife?
Looks like a roadblock, buddy. We're headed for that big pothole in the sky.
Which that raises a lot of other questions. But then the other dummies come in just in time.
Dummies to the rescue!
They perform this big rescue. Basically, they send Junkman packing and they save the doctor, and all is well. The doctor makes some one-off comment about how he has a brain chip and not a brain.
And your brains are safe in your head again.
Yes, my brain chip is totally unharmed,
And then it ends with a gag, like all good shows should.
and my memory function is completely intact. And I owe it all to you, Scooter and Eleanor.
What are some of my favorite things about this pilot? First of all, the theme song fucking slaps.
Slick and Spin get the job done. When there's no hope inside, crash dummies will make things right.
If you watch the Cartridge Crusaders, which is my Let's Play channel with my friends, you've probably heard me and Dan reference it a few times. This is what we were referencing. The writing and humor in the show actually, surprisingly holds up pretty well for being from 1993. Usually there'd be like a few things that you'd be like, that didn't really age very well, or like that joke doesn't land anymore, or like I don't get this reference because like it was a reference that was supposed to be made back in the 90s. But like there aren't really a lot of those in this. Most of them are pretty like centered around the universe that they're in. The jokes are focused in what they're doing, and a lot of it's visual humor. Yeah, the animation's aged like cheese, but you can still tell that there was a lot of heart and soul put into this project. I think one of the best parts about this show that helps make it timeless is that it's very satisfying to watch. There's basically no consequences to hurling yourself into a boulder or throwing yourself off a cliff or launching yourself literally out of your bed into your bathroom and decapitating yourself.
Time to get cracking. Come on, we gotta get to the test center and check on Ted.
Right, just gotta brush my teeth.
And I definitely think that there being no consequences for crashing into things or being able to reassemble things so easily and so quickly makes this show like easy to watch and like more easy to digest, because there's not a lot of worry about like, they completely, crashed and stuff, but everyone's going to be okay and it's going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. And it's all fun and it's all lighthearted and great. Then you also like, it kind of takes away from the fact that like they're worried that they're going to die, but they can clearly survive things that are like death-defying. Speaking of death and the crashes, some of the crashes in this show are fucking brutal.
Slick and spin. And if it fell into the wrong hands, unstoppable.
Chill junk, dudes. I got him. No, I got him.
Nice catch.
This actually kind of reminds me a lot of the writing that like Lego stories use these days, and I think that that's why this story has kind of stood the test of time. That type of tongue-in-cheek, physical gag humor is very reminiscent of how Lego games are made today, and I think that that's kind of the best way to go about it. If you take it too seriously, it's like, well, they're fucking Legos. Like, why are you going to take this seriously? And I think that's why this pilot works so well, is because they will hurl themselves into death-defying situations with little to no concern of their well-being. And that's all well and good, and I think that that's all very fun, and it's very interesting. But there is something that I really think we should be drawing more attention to.
Maybe I should run for office someday. I mean, why not a dummy in the White House?
He said that very specifically. He's self-aware that he's a crash test dummy, obviously. He's like, he knows what he is, and they all do. And they're like, yeah, we're built to crash. So are there humans in this universe? When I looked this up, it said that Dummyland was a fictional land where dummies just basically test and crash cars. And they might work on stuff basically for other people, kind of implied by the pilot, where they're making something for the president. But it's just super interesting to me because it's like, where are their humans? Are they still, they have to still be around, because if the president is not a dummy, then he must be human, unless he's not human. But then if he's not human, what is he? Is he a robot? Like, who made the crash test dummies? Was it humans? Was it robots? Doc also says something about improving on the dummy head and building the Torso 9000 to improve dummies.
When R&D was designing the Torso 9000, they also attempted to improve on the dummy head.
He also says some one-off line about, you bet your lug nuts.
This is really super secret, eh, Doc?
You bet your lug nuts.
So this kind of plays into the thing where it's like, that could have been just like a mechanic joke. I don't know, I wouldn't look at my fellow animators and say, you bet your Cintiq tablet, you bet your keyframes. It's like, that doesn't work. We see close-ups of their hands a lot, and it looks very like marionette-like. So when they said they tried to improve the dummy head, and they made the dread head, when this dummy head was activated,
this terrible head, when activated, was completely evil.
Are all dummies activated? Is the central core part of their beings in their brains, in their heads? And also, I know I already mentioned that there was a cat and that there was also bugs, but there were also birds that I didn't mention earlier. They all have the little symbols, they have the little crash test dummy symbols on them. Why are they building animals? Why are they building crash test dummy animals? And you might be saying, well, Veras, it's because the bugs were built to be like hazards, or like they're built so that they could test to see if like a bug could survive it or a cat could survive it. Okay. Explain the birds who aren't anywhere near the lab where they're working and is instead near Slick and Spin's house, and they're just there. and they were like born because they're in a nest and they were like babies. And also, Horst makes a comment about having a mother.
Yeah, Mommy, maybe you was right. I should have been an engineer.
So like he had to have grown up, right? Do they age? How does that work? They're robots, aren't they? They also sleep and brush their teeth and eat because Spin makes a very good pun about breakfast.
Shake a leg, Spin. We gotta finish this bite test before breakfast.
Well, then we'd better break fast.
What is going on in this universe? These like robot puppet things are eating and sleeping and have to worry about dental hygiene. They have a fun little thing at the end where Slick and Spin are like,
Don't you be a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
And leave the crashing to us.
which is really fun and really cute, and I like that, and I'm pretty sure it's a reference to one of the old PSAs. And it also tells a lot about why they probably didn't greenlight this show. Hey kids, you know what's fun? Crashing into a brick wall at high speeds. Alright, I need to know more about this lore, so we're moving on to the comics. And you gotta wonder, Veras, what are those comics like? Well, in the first one, the president is kidnapped. In the comics, we actually get a confirmation of a bunch of lore that we had questions about earlier in the video, such as the fact that there are humans. It is said that they live in Crashtown, USA, which goes against what I found online about where they live in the pilot, or there was a change in lore between the pilot and the comics, which, I mean, happens all the time. I think Crashtown, USA is not only a better name, but also like a better concept in terms of like it's a whole city or a whole town, I guess, and everyone lives there. This isn't something where like the dummies live in one area and the humans live in another, though, because they interact constantly. Apparently the crash test dummies' job in the comics is that they are just all about testing the safety of products, vehicles, anything that might be unsafe for humans. And apparently sometimes they crash into humans not knowing that they're not dummies. But hey, at least the animals are back. Also, Junkman built a giant robot dinosaur to steal the president. And is that an ad for Crash Dummy video games? Oh, hell. Well, before we dive into that mess, basically the plot of the comic is that Slick and Spin are tasked with getting the president back. What I love most about these comics is that the humor is still intact in this. That was one of the strongest parts of it, so I'm actually really glad that the comic kept that intact. So Junkman's junk bots take the dinosaur into the city because America was like, lol, no, we don't want you as the president. And Slick and Spin use a magnetic bulldozer to stop them? Is that a fucking Yoo-Hoo ad? Anyway, Slick and Spin get thrown into a river, and they literally get the junk bots to follow them into the river in the dinosaur bot by teasing it. There's that humor again. They then convince Junkman that he did win, and they put his head on Mount Rushmore, and while he's distracted giving a speech, and the junk bots are in the robot dinosaur thing, the Junkosaurus is what they're calling it. They literally pull up in another excavator, but it has a mirror attached to it. This is getting fucking ridiculous. So Slick and Spin are able to confiscate the Junkosaurus, and then they save the president, and then they take Junkman away, and then Junkman destroys the Junkosaurus himself. But the Crash Dummies have inflatable suits. That was the whole thing with this comic, is that they were testing their inflatable suits. I didn't mention that, sorry, but they were testing their inflatable suits. And so they saved the president falling out of the Junkosaurus with their inflatable suits. Also, the president was in the Junkosaurus the whole time, by the way. I didn't mention that either. And then all's well that ends well. The president was saved, Junkman was stopped, and Junkman's head is still on Mount Rushmore next to the Beatles. Well, that was, that was something. The next comic is interesting because they actually start dealing with a short. So they have like a full episode and then they have like a short at the end. So it's technically two different stories. The first one is just basically Junkman disguises himself as like a pharaoh mummy and tries to raise an army of mummies to take over, basically. But as you probably know, Slick and Spin stop him with a robot camel. And then the short is about Slick and Spin's new nephew. This is playing into that like weird family lineage like theory that I had going on earlier in the video. As in like, is there family lineage? Like, do they have families? Like, how do they reproduce? And then the next comic, the main story is that Junkman sets up a shop on the moon and buys scrap off of people to build a giant missile out of the metal that he got and is gonna bomb the Earth unless they let him rule it. But then Slick and Spin go up to the moon and they destroy the missile and then destroy Junkman with rocket shoes. Okay. And then the short this time around is called My Daddy the Junkman. And as much as I hate the name of that short, it has a very interesting concept behind it, because it actually covers exactly what I've been trying to talk about through this entire video. Family lineage and how that works. Dr. Zub basically confirms that dummies do not have any family. They don't have relatives, they don't reproduce, like they are just by themselves. So Dr. Zub says that he can create false memories so that the dummies can pretend like they did have a family, which is really sad, but also kind of nice. So Spin goes first, and basically what happens is the whole process screws up, and he sees a picture of Junkman, and he thinks that Junkman is his dad. So then Spin leaves home to go live with Junkman. He leaves his goldfish to Slick, which they have crash fish now, and so they're trying to get Spin to snap out of it, except Spin is trying to account for lost time that they never had as like father and son, and so they do a bunch of like bonding stuff. But then the Junkman is like, hey, like as my son, like can you go steal this thing for me? And the reason why they unsuccessfully steal like the car or whatever that they were stealing was because of Spin's normal relationship that he had formed like with a father figure, he would inevitably have a rebellious phase, and so he rebelled against Junkman and crashed the car. Perfect writing, 10 out of 10. I have no notes. All in all, these comics were pretty good. Albeit they were a little off model at times, with Junkman's lair being weird in some shots and the Crash Test Dummies' heads being completely different in a lot of the shots. The writing is still there and it's pretty good, and the stories are mildly interesting, so yeah. Harmless fun, I suppose. But, what about those video games that we saw? So, I originally had the developers and publishers of the games written down, in my notes here. But there are like 3 platforms that this came out on, so I don't know if it's consistent across the board, and I forgot to check, and I think all the developers are different. The only developers I have written down are Gray Matter, and the publisher that I've written down is Acclaim Entertainment. But I'm pretty sure that there were other developers. And it seemed like the majority of them were released in 1993. Like the comics and the pilot and the games all seem to release around the same time. They really, really tried to hit a home run with this. So the game platforms that these were released on were the Commodore's Amiga, Strong Start, Sega's Master System, the Genesis, the NES, the SNES, the Game Boy, and the Game Gear. Why? For the sake of this video, I decided to play the Genesis, NES, and Game Boy editions. So let's take a look at them. The Sega Genesis. I love the Sega Genesis. It's home to some of my favorite IPs in the world. Sonic the Hedgehog, Earthworm Jim, Pugsy. The story of this game is that they don't want Junkman to discover the secret, because God forbid he understands something so vague that not even the characters in the story know what it is. And then he crashes through the wall and steals Dr. Zub. So we got a 2D platformer this time around that takes control of Slick, and we have a time limit to reach the end of the level. The controls are a bit slippery and really jumpy. It kind of feels like I'm a rabbit on crack. The art style is really cool, and they placate to the dummy motif really well, with the limbs falling off when you get hit and falling to pieces when you duck for brief invulnerability. You can also roll as an attack, and I have nothing more to add to that. It's just kind of fun to use. You collect screwdrivers to get your limbs back and thus get your health back, and collect crash coins for some reason. Wrenches act as weapons to kill enemies in this game, such as tires, parking meters, and other dummies. There's also a speed and balloon power-up, which we learned about that balloon power-up from the comics when they saved the president, which I can't believe that's a real sentence that just came out of my mouth. Overall, the game is pretty interesting and honestly pretty challenging. I actually found this game kind of hard to get through without at least losing 2 limbs at any given moment, which is kind of funny because then he starts to crawl. What I find very interesting too about this mechanic is that when you're on just your arms, it actually kind of makes the game a little bit easier. I don't know if they did that intentionally so that the difficulty kind of uncurves as you're playing. I think that that makes for a very interesting experience for players who are having a hard time. Now, it didn't help me, of course, because I suck at video games, so I ended up just dying a bunch of times times on the Crash Center level, so let's just move on to the next game. All right, got the NES this time around. And can I just say, the title screen music for the NES game slaps. The story goes as follows, and bear with me here. Spare Tire is being a useless sack. Junkman shows up and kills Spare Tire and Daryl. We get some really creepy shots of Spare Tire attempting to do that reference of his weird quirk where his eyes and ears pop out of his head from the show. They're pissed at Junkman for not having seatbelts in the vehicle they are literally being captured in, and then cracked out Slick and Spin decide to rescue them. Got all that? Good. Me neither. Okay, starting off the game, I'm someone on a unicycle. I can shoot smoke, and every time I get hit, I fly back and explode. This is going to be a fucking nightmare. I seem to be avoiding tires, mini tanks, water, and thumbtacks. Every dummy's worst nightmare. This game also has a momentum system, which is pretty interesting for an NES game, and checkpoints after dying, which is more than I can say for the Genesis one. And also, this game is fucking impossible. Nothing seems avoidable, and I can't get my steam gun to work. I also found a speed power-up at one point, and my head came off, and my controls inverted. Which you can find spare heads, or you have to wait until you lose a life just to get it back. I was also spawned in a hazard and fell after using a speed power-up and a new balloon power-up and losing my head. Suffice it to say, I couldn't get past level 1, which is unfortunate because there are apparently levels where you are on foot and other levels where you are on a unicycle. Actually, sorry. Did I say unfortunately? What I meant to say was fuck this game, I'm moving on. Okay, I already hate this. So this is the GB version. We see Slick and Spin are looking, how we say, slightly more mangled than usual. The seatbelt coming down as a transition is cute though, I do like that. So that is a nice touch. And the music is just a bit crushed version of the NES theme, which is weird because it's already bit crushed. So if you'll excuse me, I'll be going to saw my ears off. We start off with Spin telling me to jump off a building. What a great friend. The graphics are actually pretty well done and the animations are not bad. There's sidling, diving, turning, pole swinging, bouncing, curling into a ball, straightening out of that. There's some pretty good stuff here, actually. Except for the fact that I hit the bottom and apparently my jump was boring and I have to do it again. Great. After failing multiple times, I realized you're actually supposed to hit everything on the way down, which, to be fair, egg on my face, it is the Crash Dummies after all. Except you have health, so actually fuck you and your rules apparently, because you can die halfway down. So you're only supposed to hit the railings and awnings and then the target. Okay, fine, whatever. I did it, we're done. Now we're testing an air bumper. I'm not even gonna try to look into that. So basically I have to just keep getting these air canisters and getting money and you win. Boom, easy, done, next minigame. A day without demolition is like a day without sunshine. I think Gandhi said that once. And now I'm skiing. What the fuck is going on in this game? So this is basically a minigame compilation, which is fine and fun and all, with all the animations being kind of good, but the gameplay is so widely varying in both mechanics and difficulty that it's kind of hard to keep track of fucking anything, and I got a game over. Alright, I think I'm done with the games now. Wow, that was fun. But you know, video games are cool, but I want something more analog, you know, something I can feel in my hands, something I can play physically with up to 4 friends. Yeah. You see where I'm going with this. You know, something like this. Yes, this is real. I'm now going to hand it off to me on the set of Veras Variety, playing this with Dan, so take it away, me in the studio. Hey everybody, and welcome to the set of the Veras Variety, and I am Veras Connolly. That is that show, and I am them. And today, we're going to be looking at something kind of different, a little interesting. I prided this show on being a variety show. So, you know, last episode we did an art challenge. I also brought my co-host Dan back with me.
I am back. Hello.
So Dan is back. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. You can see we are going to be playing the Incredible Crash Dummies Crash Test game. And here we go. Let us get into the game because we've been here for several hours with several technical difficulties, and I'm about to lose my mind. And I haven't eaten in well over 24 hours. That's not a joke. So let's get this rolling. Okay, we're here to talk about this funny board game, which...
Can I eat it?
No. But look at that. Yeah, that's standard board game, all right.
Yeah.
Very basic spinner we got here, but that's okay.
Probably.
Dan, do you know how to play? You were reading the rules while we were in setup.
Yes, I did. So first things first, you need a dummy and a car.
I want to be spin. Why are the colors always inconsistent?
I don't know.
That's so bizarre. Like in the pilot that they made, they're like red and yellow and like black and red.
Yeah.
And it looks nice. And then like in every other iteration like this one, they like change it to like purple or like white or something. And it's just, I don't understand the inconsistency. Where did you put him?
They're the purple pieces.
What have you done?
I hope
Is this
not.
a leg piece?
Yeah.
Oh.
2 arms, 2 legs, 1 of each kind.
Spin's other leg is busted.
Oh, that sucks.
I bought this used, by the way. I did not buy this new, so that's...
Good luck finding this game new.
That's unfortunate, but whatever, it's fine. We'll roll with what we have.
Basic rules, we have to get our little cars, and then we have to bring them from the start and bring them to the end. Catch is that we have to have a full crash test dummy with all of its parts before when we get to the finish. Otherwise, we have to essentially loop around and do it again.
Uh-oh.
Over the course of this board, there's a series of spaces, mostly consisting of these crashes. If we land on those, then we essentially have to spin. We have to spin the wheel. We have these little icons here, like lose 2 parts, lose 1 part, and then we just have slick and spin. In this case, I lose 2 parts.
How do you know if you lost a part or not?
It'll land on if you land
So
on a crash.
if you land on a crash spot
You spin-
and it says lose 1 or 2 parts, then you lose those parts.
No, if you have to spin again. And that second spin determines if you lose a part or
I
anything
see.
like that.
Can you get parts back?
Yes.
How?
So you can get parts back by landing on a dummy space
Oh, okay.
or by landing in the junkyard. The tow truck essentially brings you straight to the junkyard.
What's weather control?
Weather control, same thing. It's the storm clouds though.
But what does that...
Weather control does nothing. I know. It's a waste.
That's it?
Yeah, nothing.
It just teleports you?
Yep.
Okay.
One more thing.
Uh-huh.
If you land in the junkyard and you have a full dummy, you do lose a part.
So if you don't have a full dummy, you gain them back.
Yes.
But if you...
But if you have a full dummy, you lose a piece. And we can't be on the same space during this, with the exception of car crashes and junkyard and weather control. So if we spin so that we land on the same space, whoever spun and was going to said space moves forward 1 more space.
I would have said like, oh, you crash and you lose a piece. That would have been fun.
It would have been funny.
I'm not going to change the rules because then this game would take forever. But like, that would have been interesting. And whatever, let's just...
Could have been.
You go first because
because it goes slick, then spin.
Sure, yeah.
I got a 1. Cool. Very eventful.
And the game begins. 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Straight to the
Wow,
junkyard.
awesome.
You lose a piece.
Wow, I'm going to lose my stubby leg. Spin.
Spinning.
To me, it looks like a 6.
I'll just take it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I'm on a blank again.
If you coast by this.
There's no
I'm gonna
way.
be so mad. I get my part back. Because this is dummy space. This game is fun.
What?
Oopsies!
Uh-oh. I lost a piece.
Uh-oh! Uh-oh!
Oh, I lost my arm in the crash.
He lost his arm in a car
no,
crash.
wait.
Because you want to
Wait,
know why?
I have to spin the wheel.
Because he didn't wear his safety belt.
Actually,
you don't lose anything.
I lose nothing.
Whoa! This is why you wear your safety belts, kids. 'Cause if you don't wear your safety belts, then you're a fool. You're a dummy. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Dummy.
I'm fine because I am already a dummy.
That's a 4, I think?
Yes, to me that looks like a 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, cool. Nothing happened. 2.
2, that's fine. 1, 2.
Okay, what do I got?
1?
Or is that a 6?
To me, it looks like a 1, but I'm looking at it at an angle. So
I'm gonna spin it again. It's a 1 now. 3.
1, 2, 3.
Haha, you landed on Daryl.
Yeah, that was the name of the dummy I couldn't remember from the pilot.
Yeah.
Who was driving the plane into Jumpman's lair.
I landed on the lightning. I'm on weather control.
No! 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 I wanted to scream, but I want to blow out my mic, so no! 4.
4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Uh-oh. Spin the wheel. Crash your car.
Ow.
Nice job.
I hit it
Oh,
too
you
hard.
lost a part.
No!
You lose a
Sorry,
leg.
I have to pretend to scream because then I'll blow out the mic and we'll have to redo all the setup again, so...
Thanks, spare tire.
Gee, to think the president will be right here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I sure hope it passes.
We haven't even done the bomb-proof test yet.
It's supposed to be indestructible. It's supposed to be.
1, 2, 3. Oh, I crashed the car. Do I lose anything? Yes, I do. I'm gonna lose my head.
Oh no! I think I'm better off than you. I only lost a leg.
Yeah, but if we learned anything, crash dummies are completely independent.
Is that 6? I can't
That's a
see.
6, yeah.
Oh, it goes
in a circle,
oh,
yeah.
there. I thought we had to go through the whole board over and over.
Boop. I landed on spin, and I get my head back.
I have never been more angry in my entire life. You can see the rage seething in my body.
Spin to win.
Is that a 1?
It's a 1.
Where am I?
That is
Apologize.
dead set on the line.
That is dead set on the line. You need to spin again. Shh, don't tell anyone. That would be bad for ratings. Is it 4?
It's a 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, now you have to go back to the weather control.
I'm angry. I have frustration in my face and bones. 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
If you win, it's over.
That's correct.
It's so over.
Yeah.
3. 1, 2, 3.
This is like weirdly easy.
I mean, it's a board game from the 90s based off of an IP that like no one cared about until like now. You lose a part. It's not over yet.
I'm gonna lose my torso.
Why?
Because it's funny.
Okay.
5.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Leg. 2. Oh no! 1, 2, 3,
4,
5. So
that's not a crash, is it?
that is a crash.
That's a crash?
That's a crash.
Oh, you're good.
I'm good. I'm good though.
You're all set. You're fine.
I had to get to Darla or the cat.
Will this be the clutch of the century? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I guess we'll find out. Let's find out. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here. 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think that counts. I think I have to get one more at the very least.
Do you? I'm unclear.
There's an arrow, but I don't think I'm there yet.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm in a circle anyway. That doesn't matter. You win.
1! Sorry, I yelled. I am the winner of this game.
This was
so boring.
It's like playing Chutes and Ladders. Like,
hey, don't diss on Chutes and Ladders.
Hold on. It's because it's fun at first, and then it's just repetitive, just over and over again.
Yeah, and that was the game. That's the whole game.
Yeah,
that's it. That was the game.
That's the game.
So
that's the whole game.
That concludes what will probably be a filler episode for the Veras variety. So thank you for tuning in. Hey, thanks for watching. We appreciate you stopping by, and make sure to check out the full episodes of Veras variety available on BCAT and also on the Veras Connolly YouTube channel. I'm also going to throw it back to me in my basement. So after all that, we should be done, right? Like, there can't be anything else. It's not like, years later, they would have the same idea and rebrand the entire series to try and get it on TV again, right? Fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because 4Kids remade the Incredible Crash Dummies promos in 2005 using 2D Johnny Test-like animation, and it's just as good as it sounds. We now have an all-new cast of dummies in a new place that they live, except I don't care because I already hate this. I feel like the life and soul was kind of sucked out of this series just to try and recapture the magic from the original. I feel like that the weird robotic movements and like the simplistic nature of how they were made before just was a lot more charming, but this just feels like a throwaway animation for a concept that died like 10 years prior to this getting made. And the title music is so fucking annoying. The animation is fine. It's not anything special. I mean, this was pretty standard for 2005. It didn't feel as groundbreaking as it was in like 1993 with the CGI show, which that was groundbreaking for the time. And the PSAs actually kind of looked really cool. As weird as they were when they were cobbled together, it actually looked like there was time, effort, and love put into it. And those characters actually felt like they were interacting with the real world, as silly as that sounds. Also, the safety messages are like almost entirely gone at this point. And the few of them that do have safety messages attached to them, it just doesn't feel the same. And that kind of defeats the entire purpose of this series, I feel like, is that it's all supposed to be about safety and testing and making sure that things are okay. And I just kind of feel like that message is gone now. It tried to give us more lore about the Crash Dummies, but it changes what we had back in the day, and also they feel like way too mechanical now, which I guess they're basing that more off of the original PSAs where they were more robotically built. But like everything about them is mechanical now. At least in the original PSAs, they had those like suits on that looked kind of fun. But with this, they're just robots, and it's just kind of boring. All in all, these are completely fine, but that is as much as I'm gonna say about them, is that they are fine. But I never want to have to watch these ever again. So, all in all, I enjoyed this little trip down memory lane. It was kind of fun to research this stuff, kind of find all of the little things that were attached to this, and I don't know, it was cool to kind of jump down this rabbit hole of the Incredible Crash Dummies. This was something that I was obsessed with as a kid, and so it was kind of fun to see that there was more than just the pilot. When I was a kid, I just watched the pilot, and I was like, man, I wish there were more episodes. And now I wish it stopped at the pilot. Honestly, this is a fantastic concept that I feel like they could even bring back nowadays if they do it correctly. And I also feel like that the original pilot back in the day still holds up pretty well, and the pacing of it's really good. It feels very modern with all the attention span editing that's been going around, even though they say that they're getting rid of it, but let's be honest, it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, for a production that was made back in 1993, it's still pretty good. The full pilot's actually on YouTube if you want to go watch it. The PSAs are also all available on YouTube, including the originals and the 4Kids version. The comics and the board game I had to find online, so good luck. But all in all, I had a lot of fun doing this video and a lot of painful crunch days in order to get this made. So I hope that you all also enjoyed this. That just about does it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. See you later.